Not yet.
It shows live on Facebook. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for attending this press conference with Craig Tobin. I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Tobin in just a moment. I just wanted to tell you what's going to happen. He's going to talk about the case, and then after he talks about the case, we will open things up for questions. At the bottom of your screen, you should see a Q&A section in the right-hand corner at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Just put the questions and answers in that screen and we will take them as they come in. And without further ado, Craig, can you tell us why we're here today?
Sure, thank you. And I think it's important that you folks are
Craig,
here.
you are on mute.
Hold on.
Go ahead, Craig, we can hear you.
We can hear you, go ahead.
I'm thinking there's a lot of judges that might want to run that mute button as well. Listen, I appreciate everyone being here. We filed this lawsuit on behalf of Nicholas Giovannelli, a genuine American hero, as I think the lawsuit lays out, who served his country very admirably in Afghanistan on multiple tours of duty, sustained traumatic brain injury, post-traumatic stress disorder, other physical ailments, and to come home and learn a couple of months ago that Amazon, Walmart, and other corporate defendants had misappropriated his image and were exploiting his image for their financial gain. Nick found out that photographs that were taken of him in Afghanistan, along with other soldiers, were misappropriated by these corporations who then put these posters up for sale. Now, it doesn't take a great deal of imagination to understand that someone who has sustained pretty substantial injuries on behalf of his country can be seriously harmed, both actually and mentally, by having to see images he never consented to be sold publicly online. Nick learned of this a couple of months ago, and we became involved, somewhat shocked and surprised that major corporations in this country would exploit the service of people like Nick and do it for their financial gain, never seek his consent, never suggest that they were in business with him since they were profiting off of his image. This young man has given everything he can to this country. He left substantial pieces, I would say, of his life on a foreign soil, just to demonstrate what he went through. One of his injuries, the traumatic brain injury, and some of his medals for valor were obtained when he held out or held down a guard post that was under relentless mortar fire. He's never recovered from those injuries. He also came home, like a lot of young men from Afghanistan, with some injuries that weren't visible. Injuries like post-traumatic stress disorder. Injuries that he will carry with him the rest of his life. As we point out, young Nick was medically retired from the military because he had sustained so many injuries and could no longer do what he truly loved doing. Nick was very proud and is very proud of his military service. He has no problem with the fact that the United States military took photographs of him while he was on combat tours. That was explained to the soldiers, but it was never consented, nor did the military ever expect that corporations would take those photographs offline and use them for their own benefit. And so for the Nicholases and all the people similarly situated like him, we want to make sure that the exploitation of these soldiers stops, and that if there are profits and benefits that these corporations engaged in, which we know they did, that those are given to the rightful owners of those images, the people like young Nick. And so we filed this lawsuit on his behalf, but we have discovered that there are other people who have also been victims of this. And it is our intention to bring justice for Nick and to bring justice for everybody else. And with that, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. Okay.
And go ahead and put the questions in the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen. Craig, we have the first question from Stacy Baca with Channel 7, and it'll take just a second for it to come in. Who owns the images in question is Stacy's question.
It's a very good question. The image itself is owned by Nick because it's his image. The United States Army probably is the actual owner and protector of the photographs. I suspect that these photographs were obtained after the military had a contest where they exhibited the photographs or artwork of the various military photographers. And I believe that it's through that process that these photographs were misappropriated.
How did Nick find out that his picture was being sold?
That was the shocking part to him. He received a telephone call from somebody he had served in Afghanistan with a couple of months ago to advise them that they had seen Nick's photograph online, and they were photographs that were taken of one of his tours of duty in Afghanistan. He initially didn't believe it, probably thought it was a bit of a joke. And then he was directed to the various sites and saw the photographs. One of the photographs even has his name underneath it, which raises other security issues, according to the United States Army. Because remember, these were soldiers who were specialists and used in forward fight against terrorists.
Craig, since we're not showing the photographs today in order to not inflict additional pain, could you describe the images a bit so that people have an idea of what the pictures in question are?
Sure. And we can have a discussion about making these available, but some of these photographs, for instance, are actual platoon photographs of Nick crossing a river in Afghanistan, and they have put up what we would call a tow line for the soldiers to hang on as they tread through the river so that they can maintain their footing. So there are photographs of Nick engaged in that, crossing the river to get to a point where they were going to take up surveillance and other activities. There are also photographs that the Army took of him in other types of combat situations. One is a picture of Nick entering a town and with the surrounding civilians, some welcoming Nick into the town. So they are all actual, I would say, pre-combat. Some are post-combat photos of him leaving an engagement or on his way to an engagement.
How many photographs are there, and how are companies using them?
Well, we're not sure about the entire amount of how many photographs. We have located multiple photographs of Nick in different activities. And the way that these companies are using them, and I believe I just recently read one of them where they say, if you want to buy some really cool posters, and then they give the contact information where to buy the poster. So these are posters they have made of him in his service.
And Mike Krauser from WBBM Radio would like to know, what relief are you seeking, Craig?
Well, Mike, we are seeking multiple levels of relief. We are seeking some compensation for Nick for the emotional issues he's had to deal with. I think there would be substantial testimony from his family that, like people that suffer from this disease, he has ruminated on this issue and on the issue of him being exploited. We are looking to disgorge profits that they have made on these soldiers, and we're looking to put an end to these sales.
Stefano Esposito from the Chicago Sun-Times would like you to tell us about Nick. Where does he live? How is he doing? Does he have family?
Yeah, Nick lives in Niles, Illinois, and he grew up in that area. His father was a deputy police chief in Niles, had been a police officer for a couple of decades. He grew up, I guess I can attest to some of this. I watched him play in Little League. You know, he had a pretty fulsome and normal childhood. He liked to play football. He played football for a while in college. When he graduated from college, Nick joined the United States Army, and at 25 years old was shipped over to Afghanistan and served several tours of duty in Afghanistan. He has come home with a very loved dog that he was given by the military. He has a lovely wife, and he has a very close-knit family that cares deeply about him, but are concerned about the impact that this has had upon him.
And Stacy Baca from Channel 7 again raises, the military has their own journalistic force and releases photographs all the time. Wouldn't this raise the question of thousands of pictures?
It does raise the issue that there are more than just Nick out there whose image is now being used commercially. You know, when the military exhibits photos, they are not doing it so that commercial enterprises can copy them and then sell them. The military doesn't sell these photographs either. So the use of this, and I know firsthand that the Army was surprised and not pleased, I think I can say, with the use of these photographs, and has even contacted one of the defendants.
Why are you filing in Cook County Circuit Court rather than federal court?
Well, Nicholas is a resident of Cook County and has an absolute right to avail himself of that jurisdiction, and the defendants are amenable to the jurisdiction of Cook County and the state of Illinois because they do business here. I think that Nick will have a better opportunity in the Circuit Court of Cook County to assist in putting an end to this.
Are there any more questions from the attendees? Craig, is there anything that you want to say to wrap up the press conference?
Well, I think that the one thing I do want to say, and I think as a society, we have to be vigilant about things like this. We send young men off to provide protection, defense on behalf of us. And I don't have a problem with the military documenting that for historical purposes, using photographs to show what their soldiers are engaged in. But as a society, we should be appalled that large corporations or any size corporation would take advantage of the military service people volunteered solely for their own profit, and solely without contacting these people, seeking their permission, or understanding that this can have some very serious psychological implications for the people who have served like Nick and have encountered a great deal of combat.
attending the press conference today, and we will send you the complaint via email. If you have any more questions, please follow up with us, and Craig will be happy to answer them personally. Thanks again for attending the press conference today.
Thank you to everybody. And thank you on behalf of Nick.